Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I'm Peter Gross, co-host of the original Wild Kingdom with Marlin Perkins and Jim Fowler. Most of us have seen movies or television shows where sharks have been portrayed as marauders who prey on unsuspecting swimmers or smaller fish in the sea. But many Wild Kingdom episodes illustrate how sharks and other predators are an important part of the food chain in our underwater world. Oceans cover 70% of our planet, yet we still have much to learn about this important ecosystem. Modern technology has enhanced our ability to study the oceans with minimal disruption to their habitat. Human involvement and recent legislation to protect underwater creatures allow for the resurgence of these many species. There's more good news to come in the Wild Kingdom, so sit back and enjoy Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom right here on RFD-TV.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom is presented by Mutual of Omaha, people you can count on.
Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. There are many species of whales in the ocean about which we know very little. One of these is the humpback whale, whose name derives from the overall humpback shape from nose to tail. This species reaches a length of 57 feet and weighs nearly 45 tons. Even the calves are huge, weighing 3,000 pounds at birth. Since the humpback whale is one of the most endangered whale species in the world today, it's important to learn more about it in order to protect it. Recently, I was invited by Dr. Howard Wynn of the University of Rhode Island to participate in his program of research into the life history of these giant marine mammals and their place in ocean ecology. Our field laboratory would be a specially fitted 65-foot boat, the Eaglet II. With this vessel, we hope to get close enough to observe their behavior both on the surface and below. We started our venture by boarding the Eaglet II in Puerto Rico, here at San Juan, and headed to a place near the end of the Bahama chain called Silver Navidad Banks, where the whales bear their young. It was here that we hoped to find the whales and where we planned to tape record the strange and oddly compelling sound, which is the call of the whale. We've been at sea for quite a while now, since leaving the Puerto Rican coast, and are entering the region of the Silver Navidad Banks. The extended bowsprit walkway on our boat will provide an excellent vantage point for watching the surface activities of the whales we hope to encounter. The boat is expertly handled by its highly competent young captain, Gary Morse. Now that we've come to the area so often frequented by the whales, Dr. Howard Wynn of the University of Rhode Island suggests that I take a look at how whales are electronically located with equipment on the main deck. We're in an area now where Dr. Wynn says there's a good chance we'll pick up distant whale calls as soon as the boat is brought to a stop. With the power shut down, Dr. Wynn's research technician, Paul Perkins, explains how the highly sensitive hydrophone he's readying can pick up the sounds of whales calling from more than 20 miles away. Paul assures me that the R130 hydrophone takes the guesswork out of locating whale herds. The sound-sensitive mechanism is suspended a dozen feet or more under the surface of the sea by a large cork float attached to a well-insulated cable. Also attached to the cable is a brightly colored balloon which catches the wind and pulls the hydrophone away from the boat. With the hydrophone apparatus functioning, Our next step is to get the recording gear operating in order to tape any sounds the hydrophone may be picking up and relaying to us. We've found them. Paul says they're probably about 20 miles distant. That's part of what's called the full song of the humpback whale. It might last for 18 minutes. We're glad to get it on tape. Now we'll have to get busy. The hydrophone isn't directional, but knowing the haunts of these humpback whales fairly well, Paul makes an educated guess at direction and calls a heading up to the captain. Gary Morse acknowledges the heading and relays the information to Dr. Wynn on the observation deck. Paul will finish here while the captain slowly maneuvers us onto the proper compass heading. I'm rejoining Dr. Wynn now to watch for the whales.
There's a sight we often see here. A school of tuna feeding on smaller fish they've driven to the surface. A flock of seabirds also want some of the smaller fish trying to escape the attack of the tuna. We've not left the fish for long when our young Captain Morse relays a message to us over the upper deck loudspeaker that Paul would like Marlin to give him a hand with the directional sonar at the stern of the boat. I'll continue the whale watch as Gary stops the boat.
Since we've not sighted the whales yet, Paul and I will get a true course reading toward them with this direction-finding sonar device. It extends about 5 feet beneath the boat and can be turned back and forth to locate the direction from which the whale calls are coming in most clearly. Listening carefully to the sounds from the herd, Paul begins to lock in a more accurate compass bearing. This sonar direction finder's range is about 10 miles. We've got a good signal, so I'll relay Paul's coordinates over the intercom system to the skipper. I'll go back to the upper deck while Paul keeps the herd located. Moving again on our new course, we're bound to sight the whales in a matter of minutes. As we moved toward what we hoped would be our rendezvous with the whales, I soon found the best vantage point on the Eaglet II for spotting them. Dr. Wynn says we'll probably first see the whales far ahead when they burst from the water in their spectacular jumps called breaching. It'll be easier to get a first view of the whale herd from the crow's nest. From this height, I'll be able to spot a whale breaching far ahead of our boat. I don't have long to wait. though they're still miles ahead, the sound of the flukes smashing the water surface with such awesome power reaches us clearly. The binoculars, they seem to me to be the humpback whales we're seeking. I'm sure Dr. Wynn can positively identify them.
Those are definitely humpback whales I see, blowing as they surface. They're good big animals, and we ought to get some excellent sightings the closer we get. I've always found it valuable to tape record my impressions of their actions on the scene. Breaching actions like this are familiar. But we still don't understand why they do it. Numerous theories have been advanced, and perhaps later studies of my tapes may help provide an answer. My own interpretation at this point is that it's a form of play they all engage in.
We're getting close enough to the herd now that I'll be able to see as well from the upper deck with Dr. Wynn as from up here. In just the time it's taken me to descend, the whales have slowed their forward progress, and now we are close enough for some very good observations.
Scientists are still not certain why these whales so often slap the water with their tails. We do know that it is an action performed by both sexes and all age groups. Perhaps, like breaching, the tail slapping may simply be a form of game to them. The same holds true for many of their other surface activities. While these may be merely games they are playing, it is equally possible that these actions may have some function in courtship as well, or in simple signaling to one another. Only continued research may ultimately provide the answers. Flippering, like this, that is, raising the flippers high out of the water, is another of the mystifying surface activities. I believe that the whiteness of the flippers may serve as an aid in their underwater location of one another. As for the extraordinary length of the flippers, they undoubtedly permit a high degree of maneuverability.
Apart from the serious aspect of Dr. Wynn's research on whales, there is a sense of great pleasure in simply observing the grace in swimming exhibited by these giant mammals. As we study their movements and habits, watching with interest as they surface to breathe, we experience a real sense of awe that such enormous animals can move their massive bodies so effortlessly through the water. We also realize with increased concern what a tragic loss it would be to the world if these gentle giants were to become extinct through the short-sightedness or greed of man. Now it is time that we start preparing ourselves for a preliminary dive among the whales. I'll get ready for the dive while Dr. Wynn continues to make a few more observations here. We don't know how close we'll be able to approach them under the water, but certainly any observations we can make in that way will be highly valuable in Dr. Wynn's research. After putting on my diving gear, I continued observing the surfacing activities of the whales from the bow before we dived to see if we could approach them and, if possible, watch them from close range. We're still in the midst of the herd of humpback whales, but now they're beginning to slow down. Gary Morse keeps alert to prevent coming so close as to frighten them. Our slower speed now and the fact that the whales will soon be milling in one area gives me the opportunity to make some closer observations from the bowsprit walkway. Dr. Wynn is attempting to have this ocean area over the Silver Navidad banks proclaimed an international sanctuary because this is where the whales come to give birth to their young. And there's our first sighting of a mother whale with calf born in these waters. Although the evidence indicates that the whales don't call while flippering or breaching, there are so many surrounding us now that we're getting some new and valuable calls recorded from the whales down below.
No other whales in the world make such a variety of calls as do the humpback whales. While Marlin out on the bowsprit cannot hear these calls, they are being relayed very clearly from the submerged hydrophone to our control and taping cabin, where Paul Perkins and I can listen to them live, even as they're being recorded. Paul adjusts the coarse gain on the recorder and will remain to monitor the calls during our first dive.
I'll continue watching the surface activities of the whales until Dr. Wynn is ready. I remain fascinated by the grace of all their movements and at the fantastic power of their immense, near 60-foot bodies. Dr. Wynn's had time to change by now, so I'll go back to discuss the whale calls with him prior to our dive.
From recordings such as this one, we hope eventually to better interpret the vocal communications between these whales. This begins the full song of the humpback whale. There may be as many as 50 distinctly different sounds from a single whale, each of which may well have a different meaning. Our studies have shown that the humpback whales have regional dialects, just as people do. Already, we've isolated 4 very distinct whale dialects among the calls, which are issued in different areas of the Caribbean. Perhaps what we'll record right here will help us determine the significance of that.
With the Eaglet 2 now coasting to a stop, Dr. Wynn and I will begin the preliminary dive. Our main purpose right now is to test the reaction of the whales to our presence under the surface with them. Dr. Wynn, in his 6 years of research on these whales, has never witnessed any form of aggression by them toward any intruders in their domain, human or otherwise. The great danger potential we have to watch out for is the very real possibility of being accidentally bumped by them. We could, for example, easily be crushed by just the accidental touch of these powerful flukes, which propel upwards of 45 tons of flesh through the water so effortlessly. There's one of them now, so we'll be sure to keep a respectful distance, though we do want to get close enough to observe well. There's a calf riding its mother's back, as they customarily do. Each sighting like this provides one more bit of important data to the massive research being accumulated. Quite often, when observations can be made from underwater, as we're doing, even very simple acts of the whales, such as surfacing for breath, can take on a whole new perspective and significance. From what we've seen thus far, the whales are wholly unperturbed by our presence. For Dr. Wynn's purposes, this is very good, for it allows us to plan a whole program of underwater observations, which may well answer many questions that surface observations have failed to explain about humpback whale habits. Dr. Wynn feels sure that what we will learn from even closer and more extensive underwater observation in the diving we still plan to do among them will be vital in subsequently helping to preserve the humpback whale from extinction. Some scientists believe that whales may rank among the most intelligent of animals on Earth. Yet the continuing indiscriminate slaughter of humpback whales has resulted in near extinction of these animals. Next week, in part 2 of The Call of the Whale, we'll see a new phase of research, as our plan is to go underwater for much longer periods and try to approach the whales even more closely. This will be a continuation of the research project under Dr. Howard Wynn of the University of Rhode Island and the Office of Naval Research. By learning more about the habits of the humpback whales and by recording their voices as they communicate with one another, Dr. Wynn is helping to preserve from extinction a giant marine inhabitant of the wild kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha, people you can count on, has presented Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha, helping people find Medicare solutions for over 50 years. To learn more about plan options or how to protect your kingdom, contact us today.
Mutual of Omaha. Protect your kingdom.